Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, always fun to go deep on these
For
topics.
sure. Today we're looking at AI and machine learning,
Okay.
and specifically how it can be used to try to manage the just overwhelming amount of information that especially people in IT and documentation have to deal with every day.
Oh yeah, big time. And we're really lucky to have some insights on this topic from Curt Robbins,
Mhm.
senior technical writer. He's worked at a bunch of big companies,
Wh-
FedEx, Microsoft, Wells Fargo.
And even more than that, I think it's Northrop Grumman, USAA, PNC Bank. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah, so this is someone who's been in the trenches dealing with this kind of stuff
Yeah, for a long
for
time.
a long time.
And he has this great analogy.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like everybody talks about drinking from the fire hose of information. It's like, no, that's outdated. It's Niagara Falls now.
Wow, that's a lot of water.
It is a lot of water,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what it feels like sometimes, right?
Absolutely. Especially if you're in IT or documentation. Just think about what you have to deal with on a daily basis.
Oh my gosh.
System logs, technical documentation, research papers.
Industry news
It never stops.
never stops. How do you even like wrap your head around all that?
And how do you make sure you're not missing anything important?
Right.
Because if you try to do it manually,
Oh, forget it.
you're going to be there forever. And even then,
You're going to miss stuff.
exactly, you're going to miss stuff. And that's where the real danger is.
Right. Because you could end up with like bottlenecks in your work,
Yeah.
because you missed something.
Decisions get delayed, projects get stalled.
Security risks, even.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's the thing that keeps me up at night. But Robbins seems to think that AI and machine learning are maybe, a light at the end of the tunnel.
A light at the end of the tunnel, a life raft, something like that.
Exactly.
And the cool thing is it's not just some futuristic fantasy. This stuff is already being used in ways that can actually make your life easier,
Right.
like right now.
So it's not just like a concept.
No, it's real. And one of the big areas where it's making a difference is in filtering all that data.
Okay, so instead of like trying to drink from the whole waterfall, you
Yeah.
could just like, get a glass of water.
More like an intelligent filter that separates the good stuff from the noise.
Okay, I like that.
So, for example, imagine you're getting bombarded with hundreds of customer support tickets every day.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Now imagine an AI that can automatically categorize those tickets based on what the issue is.
Okay, so like technical support versus billing versus whatever.
Exactly, and it routes them to the right team instantly.
So instead of like, spending hours and hours just sorting through tickets,
You can actually start solving problems.
right, so much more efficient.
And your customers are happier because they're getting help faster.
That's a huge win for everybody involved. And
Yeah.
and thinking about, even like the security side of things
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
with, cyber attacks happening all the time.
Left and right.
Yeah, and I mean, security teams are just drowning in system logs and alerts, trying to figure out what's real and what's not.
Exactly. And that's where machine learning's ability to detect anomalies is so valuable.
Okay, so like if there's a sudden spike in, failed login attempts,
Or weird activity from an IP address you've never seen before.
instead of having a person sit there and try to figure it out,
An algorithm can flag it instantly.
like that,
Yep, like a digital detective watching your systems 24/7.
so you get that early warning before it turns into a major breach.
Exactly.
Right.
And your security team can focus on the real threats.
That makes so much sense. Now, I know a lot of our listeners work with technical documentation, creating it, maintaining it.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other world of information overload.
Right. I mean, you've got user manuals, product specs, release notes, knowledge base articles,
It's never ends.
and just trying to keep it all up to date and accurate.
I can't even imagine.
Right. And then, like, if you need to find something specific,
Or if you're trying to figure out what needs to be updated.
you're basically searching through a haystack.
It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, except the haystack is made of digital paper cuts.
Ouch. Yeah. And this is where AI comes in, again, specifically something called natural language processing, or NLP.
Yeah, Robbins talks about this a lot.
Right.
He says NLP can do some pretty amazing things.
Like what?
Well, imagine you've got hundreds of pages of user feedback.
Boy.
Now imagine an AI that can scan through all that and instantly tell you what the main themes are.
Wow.
What are people loving? What are they struggling with?
So you don't have to read every single comment.
You get a summary of what users are actually thinking and feeling.
That's amazing. And I bet that could be super helpful for figuring out, where your documentation needs to be improved.
Absolutely. You can create better FAQs, prioritize updates, even spot emerging trends.
So it's not just about extracting keywords. It's about understanding the nuances of language.
Exactly, like sentiment analysis, figuring out if people are happy or frustrated.
Wow, and this could be used for more than just documentation, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Think about analyzing competitor product reviews,
Oh, interesting.
identifying industry trends from news articles, even tracking how people feel about your brand on social media.
Okay, so we've talked about how machine learning can help us, filter through all this information. But what about making sense of the information that's left?
Right, because even a filtered stream can still feel pretty overwhelming.
It can feel like a lot.
Definitely. That's where AI-powered summarization comes into play. It's like having a little AI buddy who can read through a giant stack of documents and then just tell you the main points.
Okay, so instead of trying to climb Mount Everest of information,
Right.
you get a helicopter ride to the top.
Exactly. You see the big picture without all the climbing.
I like that.
Sure.
So how does this summarization thing actually work?
Well, there are a couple of different ways. One approach is called extractive summarization.
Extractive.
Yeah. So imagine you've got like this massive technical manual, right? Thousands of pages.
I've seen those.
And you're trying to figure out, how to fix a specific problem.
Right.
An extractive summarization algorithm can go through that whole document and pull out the most relevant sentences.
So you don't have to read the whole thing?
You get just the information you need, like a cheat sheet.
Okay, that's pretty handy.
But it gets even cooler. There's also something called abstractive summarization.
Abstractive.
Oh, okay.
That sounds fancy.
It is pretty fancy. Imagine instead of just pulling out sentences, the AI actually understands what the text is saying.
Oh, wow.
And then it rephrases it in its own words to create a concise summary.
So it's like having the AI explain it to
We're
you.
exactly like having a little AI professor.
Okay, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, think about if you could have an AI summarize a complex research paper
Or a legal document.
or a technical specification.
All of that, it can make even the most complicated information much easier to understand.
Right, and that saves so much time and energy
Exactly. And it means you can actually use that information to make decisions and solve problems.
instead of just getting lost in it.
Exactly. And okay, think about all the ways we communicate at work.
Meetings, presentations, emails.
All of that generates tons and tons of information.
And half the time I can't even remember what was said in a meeting 5 minutes after it's over.
Right. And that's where AI-powered meeting summarization comes in.
Meeting summarization.
Yeah. So imagine a tool that can automatically transcribe a meeting, identify who's speaking, and then generate a summary of the key points.
Oh, wow. So you don't even have to take notes.
Exactly. It's like having a robot secretary taking perfect notes.
That would be a game changer. I mean, no more, scrambling to write everything down or trying to decipher my own handwriting later.
You get a clear record of what was discussed, the decisions that were made, the action items.
So much easier to stay on top of things.
Exactly. And you can easily search through past summaries to find specific information.
It's like having a searchable archive of all your meetings.
Precisely. And all these AI-powered tools, from filtering to summarization, they're already having a real impact on how IT and documentation professionals work.
So this is actually happening.
It's happening now. Robbins himself talks about using these tools to streamline his own workflow.
And I bet as AI and machine learning get even more advanced, these applications are only going to get more powerful.
Oh, absolutely. I think we're
Wow.
just scratching the surface of what's possible.
So what might the future hold?
Well, for one thing, I think we'll see AI systems become much more context-aware.
Context-aware. What does that mean?
Imagine an AI that can understand not just the words you're saying, but also the intent behind those words, like the specific context of your query,
Right.
even your past interactions with the system.
So it's like having an AI that actually gets you.
Exactly. It knows what you're trying to accomplish, and it can anticipate your needs.
That's pretty mind-blowing. I mean, the possibilities are endless.
They really are. Imagine an AI that can translate complex technical documents into plain language that anyone can understand.
That would be amazing.
Or an AI that can personalize your information feed so you only see the most relevant and timely content.
Wow, it's like having an AI mentor who can guide you through all the noise.
Exactly. And as these technologies evolve, I think we'll move beyond just managing information to actually leveraging it to make better decisions and solve problems.
So AI isn't a threat. It's a tool that can make us smarter and more efficient.
Precisely. It can free us from all the tedious tasks and let us focus on what really matters: creativity, innovation, human connection.
So it sounds like embracing these tools is essential for anyone who wants to thrive in the age of information overload.
Absolutely. It's not just about keeping up with the data deluge. It's about riding that wave and using it to your advantage.
So it sounds like we're really at a turning point.
Yeah, I think we are. And that's where Robbins's insights are so valuable.
Right, because he's not just talking about this stuff in theory,
He's been there. He's seen how these changes play out in the real world.
in some pretty intense environments, too.
Yeah, and one thing he really stresses is the importance of being adaptable.
Adaptable.
Yeah, because these tools and technologies are changing so fast.
Right.
You got to be willing to learn new things, experiment, try different approaches.
So it's not enough to just, like, master the tools that exist today,
You got to be ready for whatever comes next.
which, I mean, that can feel kind of overwhelming, right?
It can be, especially when you're dealing with so much information already.
Right. But it's also kind of exciting.
It is. It's like we're on the edge of this whole new era of knowledge discovery.
Where AI can help us find answers and solutions that we never even thought possible.
Exactly. It's like having a superpower.
And I think that's the key takeaway here. AI isn't something to be afraid of,
It's a tool that can make us better at what we do.
right? It can free us up to focus on the things that really matter.
The creative stuff, the strategic thinking, the human connection.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave everyone with a challenge.
A challenge.
Yeah, to embrace the possibilities of AI.
Don't be afraid to experiment.
See how these tools can change the way you work and think.
Because in this world of information overload,
Being able to make sense of all that data,
to understand it, to use it,
that's not just a nice-to-have skill.
it's essential.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating conversation.
And remember, even though it might feel like you're drowning in information sometimes,
With the right tools and the right mindset.
you can navigate those waters and come out on top.
Absolutely.